This is Merlin Berg, the producer of the Veterans Benefits blog. I have with me today Steve Lawrence. Steve is a Vietnam era veteran, and we're going to talk about his experience with the Veterans Administration and some of the activities that he's involved in the community. Steve, why don't you just give me a little, describe some of your military service, and we'll start there.
Well, I joined the military in January of 1967. Thought I was going to the Army Security Agency and ended up in OCS at Fort Benning, Georgia. And I graduated November 22, 1967 as an infantry lieutenant, and hit Vietnam on June 17, actually, 1968, and I was there from 1969. I operated as an infantry lieutenant in combat with the 1st Air Cavalry Division until Christmas Eve, and I was transferred to division headquarters, where I became the protocol officer for the commanding general of the 1st Cav, whose name was George Forsyth, and I served there until June 17, 1969, when I came home. And then I went to Portland State immediately, and I went to finish my education at Portland State on the GI Bill, and later I used the GI Bill to go to law school.
A little bit about your VA claim, and you know, the process, and
well,
what's been your experience in doing this?
Again, I was a practicing attorney at the time. My only experience with the veterans was educational benefits at Portland State and then at Lewis and Clark Law School. That seemed to be pretty easy. No one ever told me that there was a possibility that I could have disability claim benefits, even though I knew I had hearing loss and some other things. And so I went through life until about 2000, and a number of issues started coming up, and I joined the 1st Cavalry Division Association. In fact, I not only joined, but myself and another person started the chapter in Portland, and started meeting with other veterans who said, you know, you probably have a claim, you need to go in and claim. So I started that process for hearing loss. I have peripheral neuropathy. I have a lot of things that are associated with Agent Orange, plus I have my quota of PTSD, and it was affecting my work. And I went to the Vet Center, which is not part of the VA. Even though it's funded by the VA, it's separate. So if you have a claim that's been accepted for PTSD or psychological issues, you actually can't go to the Vet Center. You go through the medical system. So if you're outside the claim or preparing your claim, you can go to the Vet Center. So I did that, and I spent about 5 years in counseling, and you know, the more I talked with them, the more I understood that I needed to retire. I needed to deal with my veterans issues. So I did that, and I got basically turned down on almost everything except for a small amount of PTSD. They awarded me my tinnitus and some carpal tunnel associated with peripheral neuropathy, and my hearing loss. Even though I got no percentage for that, I got hearing aids. But I knew that I had a more claim there, and I basically prepared my own claim form, even though I went through a Veterans Service Officer through the DAV, Disabled American Veterans. I prepared it like I would a legal brief. I had it tabbed, I had it you know, documented, I had documents referred to, and I submitted a 3-ring binder to them, and I think they just looked at it and said, oh heck, give it to him. But it took me 5 years.
Really?
And it was very frustrating, because the DAV service officer that I had was a Marine in Portland who was overwhelmed by his job responsibilities, and you got very little attention when you went in there. So you literally just had to do it yourself and then take it back in and say, would you file this? And so that was my experience when I came here. That's why when I started looking around at the situation here, I knew that I wanted that to be improved. You guys could look at it. And one of the things that we now know, the Supreme Court recently ruled that your veteran's claim is not like a lawsuit. There is no statute of limitations because it's a benefit. So you cannot extinguish the benefit. If you have new records that support your claim, you can renew that claim. And that's something that veterans need to understand.
Yeah, there's having the details and the basic information that the VA want is absolutely essential, and it sounds like that's what you accomplished with your submitting your binder submittal of information. So
and you know, for instance, I got an email one day from a veteran, and I don't know even really how he identified me, but he said somebody had said that I might be able to help him. So this veteran was at a place called Camp Gorvad the same time I was, which was in Fuquay, and on a certain day in 1969, we were attacked at the landing zone and at the base, and with mortars. And he was on the front line, and he had some PTSD, quite frankly, as a result of that attack and the fact that he very near lost his life and some other things. And they were claiming that there was no record of that. Well, interestingly enough, that was the night that I was awarded a Bronze Star for what I did. And so the whole thing is written up in my citation. How coincidental. I simply gave him a copy of the citation which actually described the attack and the extent of it, and he was able to get his benefits. So those are the kinds of things sometimes you need verification, but you know, sometimes the right person comes along or refers you to the right person, you're able to get the documentation you need. It's the same thing with Agent Orange. You used to say you had to somehow prove that you were exposed to Agent Orange, but now it's basically, if you were in country, you were exposed to Agent Orange.
Yes.
And that's a done deal.
Yeah, and of course
all you have to do is say, prove that you have the associated presumptive issues, and it's compensable. And don't let them tell you different.
Yeah, and it's still a big issue with the Blue Water Navy and all that nonsense that's the VA won't recognize.
Aircraft carriers, you know, which had planes landing and some of them spraying and bringing it back to the aircraft, and not finding it compensable for the sailors who were dealing with that. I mean, there's so much of that still needs to be resolved, and here we are 50 years later trying to resolve it. So, you know, it feels very good to have, at least in Wasco County, a very strong, functional veteran service office that can go to battle and fight for you, and be supported by a good volunteer staff, and won't quit. We get denial, and we appeal, and we appeal, and we appeal, and most of the time we end up winning.
Yeah, it's I believe that one number I've seen that 75% of the appeals are actually approved eventually.
Right.
The unfortunate fact is that it takes years to accomplish that, and that's the outrageous part of this whole system.
It's frustrating. Sometimes people die before they get their benefits, and all of that shouldn't be, of course.
Yeah. Steve, is there anything else you wanna share with the Veterans Benefit blog audience?
No, I would say that in the Dalles we're very lucky because we have a very active volunteer veterans program. We have what's called an ad hoc volunteer committee. We also have a memorial committee, and as a result of the efforts of the veterans working to get the Veteran Service Office going, we also have a CBOC, a community-based outpatient clinic here, that when I first got here had one part-time doctor. We now, as a result of our advocacy, have 2 full-time doctors 5 days a week. And again, that's what you can do in your community. Remember, the squeaky wheel is what gets oiled. So if you think you need that, go out, get your veterans together, invite the head of the Veterans Hospital in Portland down to your community and show them your need.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
Steve?
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and I'm sure that people watching this video blog will learn a lot and take some action.
Yeah.
So,
And just remember, even if you got PTSD, you can figure out how to move forward.
thank you, Steve.
Yep.